We're living it up, palm trees with sea breeze. We're living it up, no clouds with blue seas. We're on a jet ski, living this life, tropical island paradise. We're living it up, palm trees with sea breeze.
Nothing I say is financial advice and shouldn't be constituted as financial advice. I'm a grown-ass man in a Spider-Man mask who gives you fire crypto information. Again, none of this is financial advice. Make your own decisions. What is up, everybody? I am Mr. Man. Today, I want to talk about where we are going. And the way I'm going to talk about where we're going is literally between a tale of two coins. And these two coins are XLM and the other coin is XRP. To understand where we're going to be going and how we're going to get there, I need to bring you up to speed and bring in the context of the past. So today's video is going to be more of a storytelling. So here we are back in 2021, National Bank of Ukraine. The NBU welcomes Ministry of Digital Transformation pilot project to issue programmable electronic money. This was issued out December 15th, 2021 at 1830. This has to do with a pilot project with Stellar, Tascom Bank, the DIA, BIT, and did I say Stellar already? And NBU, National Bank of Ukraine. The NBU has commended efforts by the Ministry of Transformation of Ukraine in conjunction with Tascom Bank, the fintech company BIT, and Stellar Development Foundation to run a pilot project that will perform a test issue of a blockchain-based electronic money. So notice the date it came out. And then we'll see how this pilot project is being capitalized on. As a part of this effort, employees of the state-owned company DIA will have a chance to give the programmable digital money a dry run. The project aims to explore the potential for use of blockchain-based electronic currencies. It will help identify possible applications, programming functionality of such money. The pilot project is not directly concerned with issuing the e-hryvnia, the NBU's digital currency. The e-hryvnia is Ukraine's digital dollar. Under the new legislation, the NBU is the only authority that can issue the e-hryvnia, said NBU Deputy Governor Oleksiy Shaban. The pilot project is intended to test the underlying technology by having one of the Ukrainian banks issue electronic money. The project will be supported by the Digital Ministry of Transportation, and the NBU will be informed of the results. These find, and that national bank, or that bank that's going to be involved in it, is Tascom Bank. And when they are done with this pilot project, they're going to issue this summary and hand it over to NBU. So that way NBU can look at it, assess it, see how it goes. Okay, so we have that established. This came out in 2023, sorry, just a month after. Here's on Stellar's page, Tascom and Stellar. Detailed report outlines advantages of issuing and distributing electronic money on blockchain, including transparency, accountability, security, low transaction costs, and high throughput. Today, the Tascom Bank, one of Ukraine's oldest commercial banks, released the findings of its electronic money pilot on the Stellar network. The report provides information to the National Bank of Ukraine and the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine on the advantages of issuing electronic money on blockchain. And I believe this set up to be known as a synthetic CBDC, where it acts, where the money itself is, the rails are the Stellar rails at that point, XLM at the bottom there, then you have the over technology at that point, which would be the USDC through Circle, and the central bank is involved. I don't know how to explain this the best, because it's difficult to explain how CBDCs, I want to say CBDCs are like, they're a wrapped stablecoin. The stablecoin is involved in this setup. You have the USDC as the stablecoin, you have the central bank as the entity that gives this currency the validity of currency, because the central bank is what dubs money, if you will, through the BIS, the central banks of central banks. So the central bank would have to be involved in it. So picture like wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped ETH, except it's a central bank wrapped contract around that stable coin, which provides the value to that fiat currency on the back of XLM, capitalizing on XLM treasuries, if that makes sense. I hope I did justification in explaining that, because CBDCs are a tough one to explain the architecture of it, but I hope I provided some thought in there. And if I didn't do a good job of explaining it, please let me know. And if I didn't explain it well or proper to your understanding, by all means, like, I'm open to suggestions, I'm open to comments. I'm here to learn like the rest of you guys are. So, which include greater transparency and accountability at all stages of circulation and among all the participants in transactions, improved security and confidentiality of client data, low transactions cost, instant payments functionality, and high throughput of the blockchain platform. At the end stage of development, from conducting operations to testing. Okay, so here we are now. Here is that letter Tascom Bank was supposed to issue to the NBU, National Bank of Ukraine, after the proof of concept had been accomplished. So here, the forward of Sergei Kolod, the first deputy chairman of the board. Today's growing challenges encourage us to focus on continuous improvement and development, both at the level of banks and entire financial system. I'm trying to sound like him, even though he probably has an accent. The rapid penetration of virtual assets into areas from everyday life to the economy drives our strategy to explore and apply the benefits of digital ledger technology and create related banking products. In particular, the JSC, Tascom Bank, team actively worked on implementing the first platform in Ukraine for issuing and turn over electronic money based on blockchain technology integrated with banking systems. Why did this roll out? Because this rolled out as Stellar Aid. This was to help displace to help with the displaced asylum seekers, or people of the displaced war taking place between Ukraine and Russia. So then this idea came about and happened to roll out coincidentally. So is it this idea just came out and it rolled out coincidentally, or is there a bit of manufacturing involved in this? I'm just questioning things here. I'm not suggesting, I'm not stating, I'm just, hey, I can put a tinfoil cap on and suggest, because ironically this just happened to roll out, right? So that being said, and these guys are happy with it. They're happy with this setup. They had tested this CBDC, this form or type of CBDC. I believe it's an sCBDC. It's synthetic because it's not encapsulating the full power of the central bank at that point, because they're not operating their CBDC. Whew. Okay. Ukraine Bank finds Stellar blockchain brings key advantages. And this is from January. Ukraine already receptive to crypto, has one more reason to be bullish on blockchain, thanks to Stellar. A Thursday report unpacking a 2-year study of the feasibility of tapping the Stellar crypto ecosystem to move money around the war-torn country detailed a number of reasons for optimism when it comes to digital assets. One of Ukraine's oldest and largest banks, Tascom Bank, led the pilot behind the story. It came about at 2021 bequest of several of the Eastern European nations' top financial regulators and legislators. The Tascom study, commissioned in part by Ukraine's influential Ministry of Digital Transformation, found a number of use cases versus its TradFi, which is traditional finance banking system, for moving money around for moving electronic money via Stellar, which is XLM. For any value to be transferred or moved, it has to utilize that currency. It can't just go on the blockchain itself. They're not renting space to move on there. They're renting to be on the ledger itself without having that underlying technology. They need to use that underlying technology. The blockchain launched by Ripple co-founder Jed McCaleb in 2014 following his exit of Ripple. The study found Stellar improved security and confidentiality of customer data, customers being you and I at this point, boasted for quicker and far cheaper transactions with high throughput. And it's especially relevant now, given Ukraine's national bank has blocked local commercial banks from rolling out new forms of e-money. Crypto, basically, since the first days of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine sees real crypto use cases via Stellar blockchain. So here we are now talking about a use case, one of the use cases being used in Stellar A during a war-torn economy out in Ukraine and Russia. That's terrible. It's horrible. Let's just jump into a video here to see what the current war is right now. So what's going on here? They're either in a helicopter or a plane that's banking on an angle, and the individual out this cargo door is looking out the window and showing you from his point of view. These individuals down here, these guys are in a war, in a fight. There's something along those lines going on. So I'm going to come off the mic here and we're going to check this out. Okay, so now we have footage of this recent war going on. We have spoken about the Ukraine-Russia war, which had taken a large amount of lives and a large sum of money from our governments to send out there, to send aid. A lot of these banks couldn't move aid, so they had individuals such as Stellar and Tascom Bank under the guidance and watchful eye of the National Bank of Ukraine, led by the digital transformation under DIA, or with DIA, sorry. DIA being one of the platforms to receive this money on. So now we're talking about this war taking place here. Now I'm going to show you another coincidence, because that's all I can just say. That's all I can say they are, is just coincidences, okay? I'll work my way down to this coincidence. I'm telling you a tale of two coins here, okay? And the reason the value will be as high, very, very high. But that's neither here nor there. So here we are now. We're going to take a look at the victims of these wars that take place. I want you guys to have an understanding and to feel what these individuals feel. I remember when I was younger and I would hear of something that happened in Toronto. It was like, man, that's close to home. But when I heard something happened overseas, that doesn't even exist in my world. It's overseas. It's too far. Not that close. Life has changed. I've grown up. I've matured. And lives are lives. People are people. Whether they're just a puppet moving on their life, thinking they're living a free life, or there is no or. There's absolutely no or. There's no or. A person's a person. Whether you are a respectful person, disrespectful person. I don't necessarily have to like you if you're a disrespectful person, but I respect your life still. Right? Everybody has their story, even if the story is not one you agree with. That's just my take on life. But listen to some of these individuals here about their lives.
As we learn more about the victims, including the Americans among them, here's Kelly Coviella.
For the Manzuri family, it's been the longest 4 days, holding on to each other and to every bit of hope.
We are in hell right now. That's where we are.
Their two daughters, Norel, 25, and Roya, 22, both born in L.A., living in Tel Aviv, were at the music festival in the south of Israel, where at least 260 people were killed.
It's either they're dead or we're kicking them.
There's been no word from Norel or Roya since. Their parents giving DNA, praying they're not among the unidentified dead. Their friend Noah was with them.
They're just the most lovable people. They come in a room and they just make everybody happy.
Tamar and Johnny Seaman Tov lived on a kibbutz near Gaza with their 6-year-old twin daughters and 4-year-old son.
The kids were always happy, always jumping, always laughing.
When the attack began, they ran for shelter, texting friends in Australia that they were safe. But Hamas breached their bunker and murdered the whole family.
To get killed in your house, surrounded by your kids, it's horrible.
Across the border in Gaza, a family of 6 killed by an Israeli airstrike, according to Defense for Children International. 4 children and their parents now dead. The youngest was just a year old. Haim Katzman was a dual American-Israeli citizen, killed at the kibbutz he called home.
It's very sad because he was a person who wanted and was sympathetic to both sides.
Haim's mom says he was a promising researcher, activist, and teacher, adding he is sorely missed by all who had the privilege of knowing him. Tonight, so many families in unimaginable pain.
They are my babies. They are my babies. They are my babies.
Kelly Kobiella, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
I don't know about you, but that touches me in a man. That touches me in a special place for sure. That's not something I'd ever want any one of you guys to go through. Anybody that's hearing my voice right now, I don't want any one of you guys to experience this. This is like, I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. So, that being said, that brings us up to October 12th, 2023 now. We've heard about the Ukraine war and Russia war. We've heard about Stellar stepping in to coincidentally have aid to help out. We're now moving into the Hamas war with Israel, and now we're talking about governments sending money to help out. Government of Canada provides funding for humanitarian assistance in response to worsening conditions in Israel, West Bank, and Gaza Strip. Today, the Honorable Ahmad Hussein, Minister of International Development, announced that Canada is providing an initial $10 million in funding for humanitarian assistance in response to recent appeals from experienced and trusted humanitarian partners to address urgent needs stemming from the crisis in Israel, West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. This funding will help provide food, water, emergency medical assistance, protection services, and other life-saving assistance. Canada will ensure that no money goes into the hands of Hamas. Now, U.S. aid to Israel and Ukraine. Here's what's in the $105 billion national security package Biden requested, and this came out October 20th, 2023. Okay, the Biden administration on Friday laid out the details of a $105 billion national security package that includes military and humanitarian assistance for the conflicts in Ukraine and Israel. The supplement request would provide security support to Israel, bolster Israelite efforts to secure the release of hostages, and extend humanitarian aid to civilians affected by the war in Israel and Gaza, according to a White House fact sheet. It would also provide training, equipment, and weapons to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia. There's the war narrative, right? Please just follow me here. There's an ultimate to where I'm going. We're talking about a tale of two coins. The package would also include additional funds to support U.S.-Mexico border security, including more petrol agents, machines to detect fentanyl, asylum officers, and immigration judge teams. Plus, It would also provide funding to strengthen security in the Indo-Pacific region, including Taiwan. So Canada sending funds to Gaza and Israel for this Hamas war. U.S. is sending funds. Okay, so here we are in August 2023. This is prior to them sending funds now. Bank of Canada finds little reason for Canadians to adopt the CBDC. An RCMP wants a digital repository for seized crypto. So they're getting ready for this. They were getting ready from this. An investigation conducted by the Bank of Canada has found that the average Canadian sees little reason to adopt a central bank digital currency. The average Canadian sees little reason to adopt a central bank digital currency. I don't recall being a part of this survey here. And it's not going to be the Canadians who utilize it first anyways. They're sending this stuff cross-border, right? As we were just talking about. Canada's going to send out, was it 10 million, I believe it was? Or 100 million? And US is sending out 105 billion. The main focus of the investigation was on the scenario where the emergence of a cashless society would warrant the introduction of a general-purpose cash-like CBDC in Canada. In the event that a cashless society emerges, the BOC determined the most people represented by the typical consumer and early adopters would continue to have their usual payments need met without cash by using various electronic methods, including digital and mobile wallets. Technology-averse consumers would have access to fewer payments method in a cashless environment because they don't know how to use this digital stuff. They are technology adverse, but could continue to transact using debit and credit cards as well as checks. So that's their cash still. That's what cash is. When they say cash will still be around for a bit, they're not talking about the physical cash you and me grew up with and know so well. They're talking about the debit until debits are phased out. They're talking about the checks until paper checks are phased out and done with. All right? The BOC made a point to stress that it is committed to supplying cash as long as demands for it remains. Now, we've determined what cash is already based off of what the Bank of Canada has said, and will not unilaterally stop supplying banknotes. So banknotes is the term there. That's the paper notes and the cash that you and I know. Not cash, that's debit and checks. Banknotes are the paper cash. If the volume of cash transactions were to fall to a significantly low value, it would not be because of the bank's decisions, the Bank of Canada said. It would result from the cumulative behavior of most consumers, merchants, and cash distributors, such as banks and other operators of ABMs, moving away from cash. Okay. So now we had paused in time now and come to the present day. We had spoken about the Russia-Ukraine war and how Stellar is aiding with that. We had spoken about the present day, the war with Hamas at the Gaza Strip out in Israel, and how Canada and U.S. is sending aid to them, and how the Bank of Canada sees little to no reason to help out or to use a CBDC, my apologies, for a CBDC. They see no reason for that. And in October, Canada is going to be sending 100 million. U.S. is sending 105 billion. They're definitely not going in cash. The government's not using a credit card to tappity tap. They're using digital currencies. We've seen the preview already. I've read it to you. Using the synthetic CBDC based off of Stellar, utilizing Tascom Bank with USDC as the value movement coin. Under the value movement coin, the USDC is a value movement coin because it has reference assets in a vault. It has backed by cash, liquid cash. It's in a vault. It's backed by treasury notes. It's backed by bonds and the treasury notes. That is the cash. It's backed by bonds and a few other securities that provide its stable value. So the Bank of Israel accelerating preparations for digital currency. This is back in 2021 now, before this war even exists today. Almost like they knew. I'm not saying this. I'm just, why not? I'm just throwing out whys and why nots, right? You come to your own conclusion. Israel's central bank is accelerating its study, research, and preparation for the possible issuance of a digital shekel aimed at creating a more efficient payment system. Bank of Israel Governor Amir Yaron said on Monday. Yaron told a conference that the bank, similar to other central banks, had not yet decided whether it will issue digital currencies and was still examining the issue. We are committed to being at the forefront of economic and technological knowledge in this field, he said. The Bank of Israel began to consider the possibility of issuing a central bank digital currency in late 2017, but a year later, a team established the study the matter recommended against issuing a CBDC in the near future. They didn't have any use cases then. Fast forward to today. Here we are. In May, the central bank said it was once again considering issuing a digital shekel. As payment methods unrelated to the central bank's money base developed, the central bank's ability to navigate monetary policy may be impaired, Yaron said. Therefore, central banks have a unique role to play in preventing fragmented and issuing that the payment system becomes even more uniform and efficient. One way to do this is through a CBDC. We were just talking about the Bank of Israel looking to accelerate the preparation for digital governance. And now as we continue on this presentation here, that brings me over to my Twitter page here, or known as X. And I sent this back in this October 16th, I believe it is. And it says, Project Sela, led by the BAS, the HKMA, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and the Bank of Israel, is about a retail CBDC or an RCBDC between two countries. So let's listen to this short video here.
Central bank money forms the core of our global monetary system, offering a foundation of safety, neutrality, accessibility, and integrity. As economies become increasingly digital, central banks are considering the possibilities and challenges of a retail central bank digital currency, or CBDC. But designing a well-functioning retail CBDC system is not a simple task. While the central bank will play a critical role in operating the core of the system and ensuring sound and secure payments, payment needs of the general public are diverse and constantly evolving. One way to meet this demand is through a vibrant community of intermediaries who, through open competition, can provide innovative and accessible payment services and handle the large operational burden of customer-facing activities. However, increased access and a greater number of intermediaries could heighten exposure to cybersecurity threats. For CBDC as a critical financial market infrastructure, cybersecurity is essential. With all this in mind, Project Sela tests the feasibility of an accessible and cyber-secure CBDC ecosystem through hands-on building of a proof of concept that is conducted through the lens of policy, legal, cybersecurity, and technology. The ecosystem is designed to maximize access to CBDC for users and payment service providers, while also minimizing the associated cybersecurity risk through preventative architecture design. The project also aims to preserve the desirable attributes of cash and capture the benefits of digitalization. Sela is a joint experiment between the BIS Innovation Hub Hong Kong Center, the Bank of Israel, and the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. It is also supported by private sector partners FIS, M10, Clifford Chance, and Checkpoint Software Technologies. The main participants in the Sela architecture include a central bank that operates the CBDC platform and RTGS system, funding institutions that manage customer deposits and ATMs, a new type of intermediary called an access enabler that provides CBDC services and all other customer-facing operations, and end users, any entity with retail payment needs. Access enablers play a critical role in increasing access to CBDC services. developing innovative CBDC payment solutions, and intermediating between the central bank and end customers. A defining attribute of these enablers is that they never hold customer funds. This distinguishes them from intermediaries commonly seen in today's systems, where intermediaries need to hold liquidity or client funds on their balance sheet. Consider, for example, an end user named Alice paying with a credit card to a merchant. The funds go from Alice's bank account to her card issuing bank, to the merchant's acquiring bank, and finally to the merchant's bank account. The value transfer isn't instant, and intermediaries need to take possession of the funds or hold liquidity against their commitments along the payment chain. This imposes costs that are often passed to the end user. In Cella's architecture, messages move between participants, but CBDC ownership moves instantly and directly between Alice and the merchant, settled on the CBDC ledger. Since access enablers don't hold customer funds, this may lower the barrier of entry for providing CBDC services, leading to a more vibrant and competitive payments ecosystem. At the same time, this increased access should not come at the cost of greater cybersecurity risks. Cella's architecture attempts to minimize cybersecurity risk by preventative design, paying special focus on careful storage and transmission of user data, authentication and authorization methods that create strong and flexible communication channels, and a risk-oriented redistribution of programmability. Project Cella demonstrates that an accessible CBDC ecosystem does not necessarily come at the cost of greater cybersecurity risk. Access to CBDC can be supported by a novel type of intermediary called an access enabler that, through lower barriers of entry, can increase the competition and innovation in payment services. Cella's findings show promise that with careful preventative architecture design, cybersecurity risks can be mitigated.
So here we have the Central Bank of Israel here, a Bank of Israel digital shekel potential benefit draft model. This is my second take of this here. I did a whole half an hour above from this here, and I kept the audio on mute the entire time. Go figure. So this is their model now, which now includes retail CBDC. Cash may get lost or be stolen, and cash payments of high amounts is complex and expensive. So they're still talking about cyber resiliency here. Stolen cash, hacked cash. As such, cash is more secure from a financial standpoint, enables direct payment with no intermediary, and maintains privacy, but has potential disadvantages compared with digital money, which can be paid remotely, in amounts of any size, and is easy to maintain, although it may be subject to digital fraud. An RCBDC, retail CBDC, can enable the public to enjoy the security of money issued by the central bank, together with the convenience and advancements inherent in digital money. So here's the traditional way, the current situation here. Different types of money today and in the future. If you notice inside the rows here, it's now retail CBDC. So in terms of the digital shekel, there was a project called Project Polaris put out by the BIS. So in terms of offline payments, there was a project put out by the BIS called Project Polaris. And this isn't necessarily related to the BIS, but this company here, Crunchfish, is definitely partnered with the BIS. They had won the G20 Tech Sprint in 2022, I want to say, I believe it was. Not one, but they were part of the finalist and part of it as well. And they're partnered with Ripple as well for offline payments. So
what we did in the paper is we looked at some real world examples of offline payment system implementation or experimentation in some of the different markets in which we're seeing this. Just to be clear, this is not an exhaustive map here or what we tried to cover in the paper. So we just tried to look at some of the more interesting markets and what's being done. So you can see that the markets that are experimenting with offline include real-time payment systems, such as PIX in Brazil and UPI in India, and also CBDCs with eNaira, of course, is a live CBDC, as well as Ghana, which is kind of in a mature phase of development, I guess you could say. Of course, there are some interesting things going on in places like China, and of course, research projects, in Sweden, the Riksbank, and even more recently in the UK. And we're likely to see a lot more of that in the future as there's continues to be traction and interest in this front payment system app.
So that brings us now to Project Polaris. This is the BIS's baby here called Project Polaris, and this is about offline CBDCs. Let's learn about this.
A fast-moving, hyper-connected world, the way we use money to make payments and do business is changing. Many countries are increasingly relying on digital online payment systems instead of cash. But our growing dependency on these online systems can affect our ability to pay when they become unavailable due to system outages, cyber attacks, or even natural disasters. Being able to make payments when offline could provide a solution. An offline payment is a payment between two parties which are not connected to a ledger system. The ability to make offline payments when systems are unavailable could improve the resilience of payment systems and provide backup during a crisis. Offline payments could also enable financial inclusion wherever internet and telecommunications connections are unreliable or non-existent. And some solutions could provide digital payment alternatives for those who can't use mainstream options. Offline payment solutions could extend some of the features of using cash into the digital space, giving people more choice. Project Polaris from the BIS Innovation Hub Nordic Centre investigates the design of secure and resilient online and offline central bank digital currencies, starting with a focus on offline payments using CBDCs. In a global survey conducted as part of this project, the ability to pay with CBDC when offline is important to many central banks. The project helps central banks to understand the range of reasons and usage scenarios, the technologies available and the security considerations, key threats, risks, and risk mitigating measures, privacy, inclusion, and resilience design principles, the design and architecture considerations, operational and change management issues. Implementing offline payments will be complex with very...
So we know offline is a key element to this. Should there be a crisis, the narrator had said. We have gone through some crises in Ukraine. We had gone through some crises in Russia, now in Israel, now with Hamas on the Gaza Strip there. So I had come to the question on Twitter, how do we end up in a scenario where you would need an offline, not need, but facilitate the use now for an offline CBDC? And this is a conversation here with BNY Mellon and a few other entities here. And BNY Mellon, I said, is well aware of those who don't trust the banks, probably don't trust the governments either. The question now becomes, for me, what black swan must take place to get people to use a CBDC? And at that point, they'll be doing a full live scale issuance and or testing of the offline CBDC. Let's hear what BNY Mellon has to say.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes, I mean, in discussions about wholesale and retail CBDC, one very obvious question arises. Why do we need to have the distinction? I mean, why not having just a CBDC that works wholesale and retail? And that's it.
So I completely agree. So Richard, I completely agree that I don't know that there needs to be a distinction between wholesale and retail, especially if the benefits of it are related to the portability. That retail concept, I know that they had talked about, well, we can now bank the unbanked, but at least in the United States, I would argue if a person doesn't have a bank account, it's because they don't trust banks. And if they don't trust banks, I'm pretty sure they don't trust the government much either. So, I don't know that would then definitely going to be an uplift in the unbanked.
So with talks of war, not talks of war, but acts of war and living in war and people not trusting the banks and not trusting the government, and things taking place. What are the preconditions and precursors for XRP and XLM, XDC, utility-based cryptocurrency to retain a value? A use case now must exist, must take place, must happen in our real world. So I had a conversation with AI this morning, and this is how that went. So if the values of XRP and XLM were to stabilize due to high velocity and high value payments were settled with these coins, would their values need to be higher to settle the velocity of the high value payments and the frequency at which they are moved? Okay, so let's do this. So if XRP and XLM were used at a high velocity and high value payments were settled with these coins. When I say high velocity, I mean central banks continuously sending money. Picture this hand motion here as XRP and or XLM and or XDC being used as liquidity in the background here. So you have the Bank of Canada sending, say, $20 billion. No, we'll say the US now sending aid over to Israel at the value of $105 billion. That's one payment at $105 billion. There's only 100 billion XRP. Okay, so that value has to be higher already to send that. Now you add on the Riksbank, you add on the Bank of Canada, you add on the ECB, you add on the who else is there? You add on any other bank you want, and they're sending high value payment frequently on a continual basis. It's not just once a day. So any deniers that are like, oh, you don't have to hold XRP for more than 3 seconds, you're right, because look how fast I'm moving, because value continuously moves. It doesn't stop. It does not stop at all. There's 8.4 billion people in this world sending high value payments or low value payments. That's the you and me of the world. This is going to continuously go. Possibly, I'm not saying it is, but possibly even faster than XRP. Why? Because it's moving 8.4 billion people's money at the same time at that point now. That's if it is 8.4, because they're looking to bank the unbanked. You see what I'm saying? This is because the value of currency is determined by supply and demand, and if the demand for XRP and XLM increases due to their increased use in cross-border payments, their values could stabilize. However, if the velocity of money increases, as we were just talking about, the demand for that digital currency increases would also increase. So the stability of the currency is also influenced by other factors, such as market sentiment, regulatory changes, and technological advancements. Therefore, while high velocity and high value payments could potentially stabilize the value of XRP and XLM, other factors could also impact their stability. So we're talking about the tale of two coins here. And that brought us in the beginning now. In the beginning, we were talking about the National Bank of Ukraine. We were talking about Tascom Bank. We were talking about the digital transformation with the company Bit Inc. to facilitate some of the technology, and Stellar as the underlying liquidity. That brought us to the Ukraine war with the Russian war. And here we are now with Israel and Hamas war, 2023. We are in November. So I figured I'd continue on with that theme now. And now we're asking about governments needing to send aid to these war-torn countries. All right. For instance, Government of Canada, I told you, provides funding for humanitarian need. U.S. aid to Israel and Ukraine. If war were to start and the government needed to send aid, it is possible the use case for XRP and XLM could increase. This is because XRP and XLM are digital currencies that are used to facilitate cross-border payments. And in times of war, there may be an increased need for cross-border payments to send aid to affected areas. If the demand for XRP and XLM increase due to their increased use in cross-border payments, their value could potentially stabilize. However, it's important to note the value of these digital currencies is also, I have the rest of it on my phone somewhere. It's in the conversation with myself and AI at this point. So, enter us into the MENA region, leapfrogging towards a digital currency, July 21st, 2022. The rise of fintechs across the Middle East and Northern Africa region is well underway as the world increasingly trends towards green energy. Why is Ripple writing about this? Why? Why is Ripple writing about this? Is this just part of, hey, we caught wind of this, this is neat, let's just talk about something that has absolutely nothing to do with us on our page. The high rates of mobile phone adoption and easy-to-use financial applications have enabled individuals in this region to send and receive mobile payments, which increase access to payment rails outside of traditional financial systems. XRPL with the XRP, Ledger, and RippleNet and Interledger offer new rails. But embracing central bank digital currencies could enable even more significant financial inclusion. Designing and introducing blockchain-based CBDC solutions that can integrate with mobile apps can help the region leapfrog into future of inclusive payment solutions. So here we have October 2021 now. This is just a few months after July. QNB and Ripple partnered to enhance global cross-border payments. So they're in it to win it now, okay? Here is the official statement on the bank here. QNB partnered and Ripple partnered to enhance global cross-border payments. QNB, the largest financial institution in the MENA, or the Middle East and Africa, unveiled, MENA, its global strategy for cross-border payments with the launch of remittance service developed in partnership with Ripple, the leading provider of enterprise blockchain solutions. According to the agreement both sides signed, QNB will initially pilot Ripple's global financial network. Are we going to be going through this pilot now? Is that what we're going through? Project Stella was set up for this use case now in this war to offer aid for banks and governments to send that high value. Is that what's going on here? Will there be an aid? Well, there is an aid, but will there be an aid utilized on the Israel Central Bank now to issue that digital shekel using Stellar rails at that point? Is that what we're going to see? Are we going to see something like that? I'm just asking questions. A couple days ago, DIFC champions Dubai as a global crypto hub with approval of XRP under its virtual assets regime. Licensed firms can now incorporate XRP into their virtual assets services. Ripple, the leader in enterprise blockchain. So they're already set up now in infrastructure with the central banks, and now they have their licenses. So they got the infrastructure set up first, and then they got their licenses. Today announced that the Dubai Financial Services Authority, the DFSA, has approved the digital asset XRP for use with the Dubai International Finance Center. Licensed virtual asset firms within the DIFC will now be able to incorporate XRP into their virtual asset services. Since the DFSA opened up external applications, XRP is the first virtual asset to be approved by the regime. The first. XRP joins at BTC, ETH, and Litecoin as the assets previously under the DFSA's virtual assets regime. XRP now stands to benefit from legal and regulatory clarity in the DIFC, and will be available for use by institutions located in the DIFC to accelerate faster, more efficient global value exchange. Woo! Now, Ripple has received their licenses for XRP to be utilized in by these companies. Ripple Swell taking place Tuesday, November 7th, today. All sessions will take place in the Gulf Standard just before Swell happened. The welcome recession happened. Tomorrow, November the 8th now, all sessions will take place in the Gulf Standard Time here. They're doing breakfast, Ripple Swell opening remarks, morning keynote, digital asset, custody, and tokenized economy. Here, do you see the pieces falling in? And I call this a tale of two coins. Here we have Ripple to partner with Qatar National Bank to enhance cross-border payments. This is out October 5th, 2021 as well. Just to add more pudding. UAE's Al Marah Bank selects Ripple ODL partner for cross-border payments November 2nd, 2023. This article came out the same day that Ripple had received their license. Do you find this coincidental as well? The Central Bank of Saudi Arabia and Ripple become partners. The Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, or SAMA as it's known, which serves as the central bank of the country, began cooperating with Ripple. The regulator intends to test X-Current technology solution with Ripple, which promises to improve the payment infrastructure and enable the instantaneous implementation of cross-border transactions. In turn, SAMA will advise so X-Current is now known as RippleNet, okay? The country's banking institutions on the use of X-Current technology in their activity. The Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority, SAMA, is the second regulator after the Bank of England. After the Bank of England. So the Bank of England is already incorporated Ripple. I've told you guys this before. Don't forget this. Which launched a similar project in the collaboration with Ripple, okay? 2018. It should be recalled that recently Western Union began to test payments based on a technological solution from Ripple 2, which they then separated. So don't forget that, okay? Here we have Project Polaris for offline payments. We were talking about offline payments earlier. I have my mic on still. Perfect, I'm not recording, no sound. That's all I need to know. So, we have gone through the story from the beginning, the middle, the end. The bun, the hamburger, all the toppings and cheese and lettuce and tomatoes in between there, to the last bun at this point. I put the picture together for you guys, showing you how CBDCs will be used, showing you how aid will be sent using these digital currencies at that point, showing you the connections, the banks that will be using them, the ODL partners, the offline payments. Should a cybersecurity event happen, we heard BNY Mellon speaking about that. We know what's going on here. Don't forget, this is a tale of two coins. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We're living it up, palm trees with sea breeze. We're living it up, no clouds with blue seas. We're on a jet ski, living this life, tropical island paradise. We're living it